Good morning, Canadian Yarn Horde. My name's Alyssa, and today we're going to start with making a project of this hat. It's a very nice, very bulky hat. It is a little larger. It is a little bit, it fits a little looser. So you can tighten it up by just making it with the same similar yarn, or you can always use this a smaller needle size. That's the words I'm looking for. I'm going to take you over to the overhead cam and we'll get started. So the yarn I used for this particular one, I do not have a label nearby, so I cannot remember it, but it was a parfait yarn. It was a baby yarn. It's a chenille yarn. So I thought a really good yarn would be to use this Premier Chenille. It recommends, it says it's a super bulky for 6. It recommends an 8mm hook or an 8mm needle. I am going to use probably, I was going to use these, but I think since it suggests an 8, I will try to find, there's my 8s. So I will use an 8 for this. I am going to be using double pointed needles. You can do this without. You could do this on straight needles and then just sew up the seam at the end. You will notice there's a seam there. You will always notice there's a seam there. This way you do not have a seam, and you don't have to worry about a seam. So that is a tip I have learned and I've used on multiple other videos. If you are a returning viewer, you will know this. I hate, no, that's a yarn barf, if you don't know. We call them yarn barfs because it looks like the yarn barfed. Then a lot of people hate yarn barfs. I would take a yarn barf to a tangle. A yarn barf is not that bad to me. You can usually find your end pretty easy. And I do find that when it comes to a chenille yarn, getting as small a yarn barf as possible. So grabbing it and rolling it in your hands gives you an extra opportunity to find closer to the center and minimizing your yarn barf. Because chenille likes to yarn barf. So I like to use 4 needles. I will link these needles in the description box below. I did get them off of Amazon. I do not know if you can read that it says 8mm. I will be using, which one is that? 6.5. I will find another hook to use. I will find these, and here is an 8. I will be linking these ones down below as well. These are a wooden set. They were a little bit pricey from Amazon. However, they are not bad to use. I don't mind them, especially with the larger hooks. I do think, let me see, it is a set that comes with, it didn't come with the pencil case. I bought that as well on Amazon, so it goes from 4 to, I think it is 10. Yeah, there's the 10. So it's a nice set to use when you want larger. It is an inline hook, I think is what they call that. I'm not a huge fan of this hook style. I don't know if you can see that. It's not my favorite. That's why I don't use these hooks very often. But what you're going to want to do, I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to count around this, and I might take off a few stitches, but it shouldn't be too hard to count it, but I will do that, and I will be back in just a second to see how many we have to cast on. So it does have actually 60 stitches on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast on with these ones first, and then we will move up. So I don't actually need that one, but I will use this hook. It is a 6mm. This is another way to do it, but I do want the ribbing. So just a quick change in plans. So you're going to put 20 on each needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yes, you don't want to put the last one on because you're not done. So then you're going to bring the next needle in. And this is honestly easier to do it with one needle and then just move them over is another way to do it. If you don't like casting onto the needles, which I usually don't, so it is an easier way to do it. I will show casting on all of the needles though this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Then you're going to grab the third needle. You're going to wrap around it. And you're going to do 20 on this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So there you have your 60 stitches. So your work's going to look like that. You are going to, actually you're going to reverse that. That is how your work should look. So you have your end tail at this hand. I am a right-handed knitter. So if you do this and you are the other hand, I am a left-handed crocheter. So I do understand things change. So we are going to now do ribbing. So we're going to knit 1 and purl 1. Now with this yarn, you are going to knit 1, purl 1 all the way across. This is the pattern for the hat. So you are going to do this for the hat all the way to the top. And you're just going to keep going back and forth on the ribbing pattern. You are going to do this. I'm going to measure that. I think I only did 1 inch of that, but I want to do about 2 inches, 1.5 inches. You don't want to do too many inches because you are going to have a fairly large hat. So you do want the larger rib pattern, which will look larger using the bigger needles. And you're just going to keep working your way around this way. I do recommend when you're working with double pointed needles to definitely use a stitch marker. It really does help where you know where to start. Helps you keep an eye on your where your starting row is. So when you want to make changes, it's very easy to see it. I do that with sleeves. I do that with a lot of other projects. So what I will do is, and I will work on tightening that up with the stitch marker so it holds the two of them together. You can see that right there. It's got the front and the back needle. You will not knit them together, but what you will do is you will hold them together, which will make your work a lot easier. And then you're just going to continue ribbing. Now, as I said, you're going to continue this ribbing with these needles for about an inch. Well, we'll do an inch and a half, and I will come back and I will show the larger needles and how I just move on to them. And I will give you the final, how large you want to make your hat, how long you want to make it. I will give you that in a second. I'll be back. So I just made it to the last of the row. I did want to show this so that you understand how to do it. You're just going to purl here. That's your last stitch. You put your needle down. This is where you want to get your yarn close to your hand. Put the needle up. And it is a little tricky. This is what will help you learn to drop needles. So when you want to work on it and you want to learn how to switch between needles and that, this will help you, because you always have two needles hanging and you're always working with one needle. So it is a little more complicated. It's a little more in the experience range. That's why I wanted to keep the pattern pretty simple. You could easily do a stocking stitch hat. You could easily do a more complicated ribbed pattern hat. We're just doing a ribbed pattern. And that's how we're going to finish it off, just a simple ribbed. You could change colors when you're done the bottom. So if you wanted to have a secondary color, which I'm thinking about doing, so I might do that, haven't decided yet. If I can find another really pretty color, I might add a color. So do this bottom ribbing in one, whereas this hat is all uniform one color. This one will be two colors, I think, and that way it can show you the difference of that. So I will be looking for another ball in a second, but that's generally how you change needles and change rows. And once you get used to that, you lose track very quickly of where your start row is, and you don't need to have a tail here because you will not be sewing anything up on the bottom. From the bottom, this will be one uniform hat. With no seam. As I said, you could easily do this hat in a seam. Maybe I will do that in the next video, and I will show you how to do that, and that way you can see both videos. If you are a returning visitor, thank you. I very much appreciate you coming back and watching my videos. If you're a new viewer, thank you very much. I appreciate my new viewers too. I appreciate everybody who takes the time out of their day to come and spend a bit of time with me. I do hope to earn your like and subscription. I would love to hear you in the question comments section below with any question, comments, or concerns you have. Even if you just want to say hi or where you're from or whatever, I love it. I love being able to talk to the people who watch my videos, see where you're from, what you're doing, all of that. I love meeting new people. So I'm going to do an inch and a half in this purple. I will come back and I will show you how to change colors. If you don't want to change colors, that's fine. I'm just showing it for a little bit of diversity in the video, a little bit of chance for you to learn something a little bit different. Maybe the hat doesn't look so monochromatic then, but I will be back in a minute when I'm done this inch and a half, and I will show you what color I've decided on. Back in a second. Okay, so I ended up doing 2 inches, but I don't think that'll be affected at all. I did want to say this color is Iris, and I am going to use this color teal. They are just the same. I got them at a dollar store or Dollar Tree for $2. I will be doing those 2 colors. They are pretty much my favorite, so no surprise. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 6.5 needles and get rid of them. I'm going to grab the 8 needle. I'm going to trim the purple so the purple is no longer attached. And then I'm going to yet again take that off. I will roll the ball into the center, and a yarn pull is so much easier. And then if you really want, you can actually put the label back on. I mean, it is 100% polyester. There is 65 yards in it. It is just a dollar store yarn, but it is an alternative. You can go to Len's Mills or Michael's and get a nice chenille yarn and do the same thing. I'm not sure I want to use 8. I do not believe I have 7s, so that sucks. So I think I will be stuck with an 8, but it is what it is. So I just need to untangle that. There we go. And this is the result of a chenille yarn. You will end up with little fluffies everywhere. It is just what chenille does. So this one, you're going to go to your 8mm needle, and you are going to now knit and purl. And you're just going to do that in the larger needles. It will make it a much looser hat. That will happen too. You will pull off fluffies at an end piece. That's why you try not to have too many ends. If I do have to add a yarn, add another ball of yarn to this one, I will definitely film it, because I have tried multiple ways to get chenille to attach to itself, and I've come down to basically the one and only option, which is pull off a bunch off the end and tie the 2 strings to each other. It's about the best way to do a chenille yarn. Now, the one thing with a ribbing is you are going to see that. If I wanted to do stocking stitch, you would not notice that. But because I'm still continuing the ribbing, you will notice that, whether it's inside or out. It won't matter. And then you're going to move to the next 8 needle. And you're going to shift to this needle. Now, once you get changed over, I will show you the measurements you're going to use to how high you're going to make your hat. And you're not going to worry about decreasing. You don't have to worry about with this particular hat. We're just going to change colors and upgrade the needles, which will allow this to have a much more collar-like feel. So it'll be a tighter feel on you, hold better, just like cuffs on a sweater. That kind of deal is what it will be. Double pointed needles are wonderful. As you can hear, they can be noisy because I'm working on a table. You will hear the needles clack because they are wood. I do like wooden needles for double pointed because they just look really nicely. I like the nicer needles. Like I said, I do prefer the old style type arrow needles. It is my preference, but they are not easy to find anymore. But I have adjusted to wooden, and if you haven't watched my videos, I do have a really good tip at my very first video for any wooden hook or needle you have. I do recommend running it in your hair. Your own hair will have a natural oil to it, and it will actually oil and condition the needles, especially over time. I do say this, my husband has better oils than I have. He grabbed my needle one day, borrowed it, and wow, he's got far better oils than I do. He's a mechanic, a road service mechanic, so he does heavy equipment, and he's on the road. And I'll tell you, he has some really good oils in his hair that make the needles flow. I have done it with crochet hooks because I've gotten these really beautiful Omni hooks, because everybody loves Omni furls. I do not have an Omni furl, but I do have the Omni wooden hooks, and when I got it, I really didn't like it. And I put it up in my hair and I moved it around and then I used it again. Makes them so much nicer to use. I don't find it changes acrylic hooks. There is no difference when you do that with the needle. But I do find, oh, no, that's what happened there. So to pull up, we're going to lose that stitch. That stitch did fall off. It can happen. You just have to keep track of where your stitches are. Make sure they don't get too close to the ends of the needles. If you want learning how to do it, I use needle point protectors. So I would put them in and I would go around. And once I started getting used to it and the needle point protectors were starting to be a pain in the butt, I would take them out and I would get used to knitting without the needle point protectors. So now I'm going to just finish this row off and I put it aside. I'm going to take my hat and then I'm going to measure from the top of it to the bottom, which is 8 inches. I don't know if you can see that fully. So it's about 8 inches. So we're going to do 8 inches from the beginning to the end of your work. So I will be back when I have 8 inches on this guy, and I will show you what it looks like. Now, if I do have to change my ball, because I'm not sure if I do, but if I do, I will show you how to. It looks like I might have to anyways, because it looks like, oh, no, that's the end. So that is one thing you do want to make sure you do when working with a ball of yarn and doing a center pull. Pull your other end out so it doesn't get tangled. So that's yet another tip I can give you. I will be back in a minute and I will show you how to either finish it off or how to add another ball of yarn to this. Back in a second. Okay, so I have my 8 inches. I am going to start darning in wherever my needle has gotten to. So we are just going to turn the light on. Now, you do want to darn these in because they do get frayed like this from your work. It is the way chenille yarn works. Another thing about chenille yarn is it will worm, and that is when it starts to pull threads out and they look wormy-like. That is called worming. Now this one I am going to, if you notice, there's a little bit of a gap there, so I'm just going to try and just see if I can close the gap a little bit without. And now I'm going to darn that down. I used 90% of the ball, so I would recommend getting 2 balls if you're going to make this hat of the teal and 1 ball of a separate color. If you're going to make 2 colors, if you're only going to make the 1 color, then I would say 2 balls would be more than enough. So about $4 you can make your own hat. That. We can take that off now. We're not using that anymore. And now we are going to, I'm going to run the 2 of them together so I can darn them both in the same row, but it's not going to work for me, so I'm just going to darn this one in then, go backwards, do a couple on this side, and then you can trim this off. Now, I would have done it earlier. If you are a regular viewer, you know how much I love tails. I'm going to just trim that one. So there's that. Now, for this part, you're going to want about that much of a tail, a little bit of a tail. And what you're going to do now, this is where it gets really easy and simple. You are going to run your darning needle through each and every loop. So you're just going to, don't take off the needles the first time you do it because you're going to repeat it. So leave them on the needles, get all the loops. And then just keep going through and getting more of the loops. Now you can do it on the first one. I like to try and get a second one run through. It is not always easy, but get it nice and tight. It should work. But sometimes in pulling it, you can pull it too tight. That always sucks too. So be very careful with chenille yarn. Like I said, if you can figure out how to get a secondary run around, you'll be doing so much better. I'm going to try and do it and cross my fingers and hope I get it right, but it doesn't always go right. Another reason you want a long tail with chenille yarn is a lot of times it will start to come apart on you, and it'll come apart so far that you really do need to have a longer tail than normal with chenille yarn. It just is what it is. As I said, this is a unique kind of yarn that does its own thing. I know you can buy professional sweaters with this yarn, this type of yarn, I should say, because this is Premier yarn, so it is from a dollar store. But you can buy this in, say, Walmart, and after a couple of washings, it will start to worm, just because it is the way it is. Now, if you can pull them through and slide them off this time. And that'll make your work a lot easier if you can slide them off. Slide the needle out, go down, trying to keep the needle on. Oh, two. Now we're just going to push and go through number 3. And then we're going to try and tighten it, not terribly tight so that you break it, but hopefully enough so that you can keep it nice and tight on your work. And hopefully, because you've double rounded that, now you go around a little bit. You just start weaving this in so that way it tightens up and you don't lose it. I'd say this will be the inside of the hat, but really most people wouldn't even notice it, so it won't really matter. You won't probably even notice it if this is the inside or the outside. It's kind of a reversible hat. Just going to go back a bit and go around, and then I will trim it off. And there you have it. I'm going to show it to you in just a second on my head. Be back in a second and you'll see it on my head mannequin. So as you can see, it is a very slouchy type hat. It is a larger hat, fits a little bit larger. I am going to be doing another one. So for now, that's this one. I hope to see you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Oops. Have a good one. Bye.